The cargo container was falling, and Tilly knew she would not move fast enough. Her mobility frame hummed beneath her, but the machine was old and slow. Her underdeveloped legs could not carry her. She closed her large silver eyes and waited for the impact. It never came that a human hand caught the edge of the container. The metal groaned as Sergeant Diana Reyes pushed it back onto its stack with a grunt. The woman was not particularly large by human standards, but she moved the heavy cargo like it weighed nothing. "You okay?" Reyes asked, looking down at the small alien in the hovering chair. Tilly's pale blue skin flushed darker with embarrassment. "Yes. Thank you, Sergeant. I apologize for being in the way." "You weren't in the way. That container was stacked wrong." Reyes turned and shouted at the dock workers. "Hey, secure your cargo properly, or someone gets hurt." Tilly watched the human woman with wonder. On her homeworld, someone like Tilly would have been blamed for the accident. A Serati born with twisted, useless legs was considered bad luck. Broken. Wrong. But humans did not seem to think this way. Base Meridian sat on a small moon called Callista 7, right on the border between three territories. The Serati traded here. The Draven Collective watched from nearby space, always hungry for expansion. And the humans kept the peace. Tilly had been sent here as a translator because no other posting wanted her. The Serati government considered it a punishment. But after 3 months with the humans, Tilly thought it might be the best thing that ever happened to her. "Come on," Reyes said, walking beside Tilly's mobility frame. "Lunch is almost ready, and Volkov made his grandmother's soup." Private Yuri Volkov was a giant of a man with hands like dinner plates, but he cooked with the gentleness of an artist. When Tilly entered the mess hall, he immediately placed a bowl in front of her. "Extra vegetables for you," he said in his deep voice. "Good for bones." "My bones do not work regardless of vegetables," Tilly pointed out. Volkov shrugged. "Cannot hurt to try." Specialist Amara Okonkwo sat across from them, her dark eyes scanning a tablet. "We have visitors coming. A Draven diplomatic ship just requested landing clearance." The mood in the room changed instantly. The Draven were not friends to anyone. They conquered. They enslaved. They looked at smaller species like the Serati the way a predator looks at prey. "What do they want?" Reyes asked. "Inspection rights, supposedly. Checking that we are following the border treaties." Okonkwo did not look convinced. "Their commander is named Vorith. Bad reputation even among his own people." Tilly felt fear creep into her chest. The Draven had a saying in their language: "The broken serve the whole." It meant that anyone with a disability was only useful as a slave. Their culture had no room for weakness. "Maybe I should stay in my quarters," Tilly said quietly. "What?" Volkov asked. "The Draven do not. They do not like people like me." Reyes leaned forward. "Tilly, you're our translator. You're the only one who can catch the subtle meanings in their speech. We need you in that room. But, and more importantly," Reyes continued, "you're part of this team. You don't hide from anyone." "Understood." Tilly wanted to argue, but something in the human's eyes stopped her. It was not an order. It was a promise. These humans would not let anyone hurt her. She nodded slowly. "Understood." The Draven ship landed 2 hours later. Commander Vorith walked down the ramp like he owned the base already. He was tall for his species, with dark red scales and yellow eyes that missed nothing. His soldiers followed in perfect formation. Tilly watched from her position near Sergeant Reyes. She kept her translator ready, listening to every word. Vorith spoke in the common galactic tongue, but his soldiers muttered in their native language. They thought no one could understand them. They were wrong. "The humans are soft," one guard said. "Look at them, keeping a crippled pet." "Easy conquest," another agreed. "When the time comes." Tilly's hands trembled, but she kept her face neutral. She would tell Reyes everything later. The formal greetings were tense, but polite. Vorith smiled too much, showing his pointed teeth. He asked questions about defenses, troop numbers, and supply lines. He claimed it was all standard procedure, but his eyes kept drifting to Tilly. Finally, as the delegation prepared to leave the landing bay, Vorith stopped directly in front of her mobility frame. He looked down at her with an expression that made her feel like an insect. "Interesting," he said slowly. "The humans keep broken things." "How sentimental." Tilly said nothing. She could feel Reyes tensing beside her. Vorith leaned closer. He spoke in his native tongue, words his translator would not catch. "Enjoy your freedom while it lasts, little cripple." Soon you will learn your proper place." He straightened and walked away, his guards laughing quietly. Tilly's translator had glitched on purpose, she realized. The Draven had programmed it to hide certain phrases, but Tilly understood every word. And from the cold fury in Sergeant Reyes's eyes, she knew the human had understood the tone perfectly well. Something bad was coming. Tilly could feel it. She just did not know how bad it would get before the humans made the Draven regret everything. 3 days of negotiations had passed, and Tilly had never worked so hard in her life. Commander Vorith was a skilled liar. His official translator deliberately changed meanings, softened threats, and hid insults. But Tilly caught every deception. She whispered corrections to Sergeant Reyes, who adjusted her responses accordingly. The Draven were getting frustrated. "Your translator is quite talented," Vorith said during the 3rd session, his yellow eyes fixed on Tilly. "Where did you find such a capable creature?" "She's not a creature," Reyes replied calmly. "She's our colleague, and she's better at her job than anyone I've worked with." Vorith's smile did not reach his eyes. How touching. Humans and their attachments to broken things. Tilly kept her expression blank, but her hearts were beating fast. She had learned much about the Draven in these 3 days. Their questions about base defenses were too specific. Their interest in patrol schedules was too intense. Something was very wrong. During a break in negotiations, Tilly guided her mobility frame toward the refreshment table. She needed a moment alone to think. She did not get it. Vorith appeared beside her, blocking her path. 2 of his guards stood behind him, cutting off her escape. "You think I do not know what you are doing?" Vorith said quietly. His voice was friendly, but his eyes were predator cold. "You correct their translations. You expose our strategies. A broken little Sarati, playing games with the Draven Collective." "I am simply doing my job," Tilly replied. Vorith laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. "Your job. In my culture, things like you have only one job. Serving those who are whole. You should be grateful anyone lets you exist at all." Tilly tried to move her frame backward, but one of the guards had locked the wheels. "Let me go," she said. "This is a violation of diplomatic." Vorith kicked her mobility frame. The machine was not designed for impacts. It tipped sideways, spilling Tilly onto the hard floor. Her useless legs twisted beneath her. Pain shot through her hip where she landed. The guards laughed. "Look at it struggle," one of them said in Draven. "Like a worm." Tilly tried to pull herself up, but her arms were not strong enough. Her mobility frame had rolled out of reach. She lay on the cold floor, helpless, as Vorith stood over her. "Remember this moment," he said softly. "Remember what you are. When we return, you will serve us properly, or you will not serve at all." He stepped over her and walked away, his guards following. Tilly lay there, shame burning in her chest. Tears ran down her face. She heard footsteps and closed her eyes, not wanting to see who would witness her humiliation. Strong hands lifted her gently off the floor. Private Volkov cradled her like she weighed nothing. His face was calm, but his jaw was tight with controlled rage. Specialist Okonkwo retrieved her mobility frame and brought it close. Sergeant Reyes appeared, her eyes following Vorith's retreating form. Her expression was terrifying in its stillness. "Are you hurt?" Reyes asked quietly. "My hip," Tilly whispered. "But I am fine. I am sorry. I should not have been alone. You have nothing to apologize for." Reyes's voice was hard as stone. "Volkov, take her to medical. Okonkwo, document her injuries." "Everything." "What about him?" Okonkwo nodded toward Vorith. "Diplomatic immunity. For now," Reyes said. "But immunity can be revoked." Tilly grabbed Reyes's sleeve. "Sergeant, there is something else. They are planning something. I have heard things. Their questions are wrong. They are not here for inspection." Reyes knelt beside her. "Tell me everything." Tilly told her about the whispered conversations, the strange interest in patrol routes, the mentions of when the time comes. When she finished, Reyes was quiet for a long moment. "Okonkwo," she finally said. "Start monitoring their communications. Everything. If they are planning what I think they're planning, we need to know." That night, Tilly tried to submit her resignation. She sent the message to Sergeant Reyes, explaining that she was a liability. The Draven hated her. Her presence made things worse. The humans would be better off without her. Reyes appeared at her quarters 10 minutes later. "Request denied," the sergeant said simply. "But you're not a liability, Tilly. You're our best asset. And more than that, your family now. We don't abandon family. Tilly stared at her. Family? I have known you for 3 months. Time doesn't matter. What matters is that when trouble comes, we face it together. Reyes sat on the edge of Tilly's bed. What Vorith did was unforgivable. And I promise you, he will answer for it. But I need you with us. We need you. Tilly felt something warm spread through her chest. It was unfamiliar. It took her a moment to recognize it. Hope. Okay, she said softly. I will stay. Reyes smiled. Good. Now get some rest. I have a feeling tomorrow is going to be a very interesting day. She was right. It was just after midnight when Ah Konkwo burst into the barracks with her tablet clutched to her chest. I cracked their encryption, she said breathlessly. Sergeant, we have a big problem. They're not here for diplomacy. There's a raiding force incoming. 200 soldiers. They'll be here in 6 hours. The base had 40 defenders, and the Draven were coming to take everything. 40 humans sat in the briefing room, listening to their death sentence. Okonkwo displayed the intercepted data on the main screen. 200 Draven raiders with air support, heavy weapons, experienced soldiers who had conquered 12 colonies in the past 5 years. Against them stood 40 human peacekeepers with standard rifles and light armor. Reinforcements are 18 hours away, Reyes said. The Draven hit us in 6. Standard protocol says we evacuate civilians and delay until backup arrives. And the Sarati? Volkov asked. 15 civilians on this base. Where do they evacuate to? Reyes was silent. Tilly understood. There was nowhere safe. The Draven raiders would hunt them down. The intercepted messages made that clear. They wanted Sarati captives for slave labor. They specifically mentioned the crippled translator as a priority target. Vorith wanted her, and he would get her unless someone stopped him. We could run, said Corporal Wright from the back. Save ourselves. Come back with the reinforcements. No one responded. The suggestion hung in the air like something shameful. Finally, Private Volkov stood. He was the largest man in the room, but his voice was gentle. I did not join the military to run from bullies. I stay. One by one, the other soldiers stood. I stay. I stay. I stay. All 40 of them. Sergeant Reyes looked at her people with something like pride in her eyes. Then we make them pay for every inch. Okonkwo, what do we have to work with? The next 4 hours were chaos turned into purpose. Humans, Tilly learned, were impossible to predict. They did not fight like other species. They did not follow rules. They created new ones. Okonkwo planted EMP mines on every landing pad, disguised as maintenance equipment. The Draven air support would be useless. Volkov turned medical supplies into weapons. Painkillers became knockout gas. Disinfectant became explosive accelerant. He smiled as he worked, humming an old Earth song. Reyes transformed the base into a maze of kill zones. Corridors became traps. Storage rooms became ambush points. Every shadow hid something deadly, and Tilly helped. Her mobility frame was modified by the base engineers. They added storage compartments for ammunition. They reinforced the frame so she could carry supplies through combat zones. They did not ask if she wanted to fight. They simply assumed she would want to help. They were right. You know their command structure, Reyes said, spreading a tactical map before Tilly. Where do I shoot to make them panic? Tilly studied the Draven military hierarchy she had memorized through years of translation work. Here, she pointed. And here. Their senior officers wear red bands on their left arms. Kill them, and the regular soldiers lose coordination. They are trained to follow orders, not think independently. Reyes smiled. It was not a friendly smile. Perfect. The Sarati civilians gathered in the central shelter, protected by reinforced walls and emergency barriers. Many of them looked at Tilly with confusion. Why was she helping? Why was she not hiding with them? An elderly Sarati named Grandmother Pell approached Tilly's frame. Child, what are you doing? This is not your fight. It is exactly my fight, Tilly replied. The humans are risking their lives for us. For me, I will not hide while they die. But you are. Pell hesitated. Broke it. Tilly finished. The humans do not think so, and I am starting to believe them. Pell stared at her for a long moment. Then, slowly, she nodded. What can we do to help? Within an hour, every Sarati civilian who could move was assisting. They carried supplies. They helped set traps. They learned to load ammunition. The humans welcomed their help without hesitation. Commander Vorith did not know it yet, but he was not facing 40 humans. He was facing an entire base that had decided to fight. Hour 5. Okonkwo intercepted a new transmission. They know we cracked their codes, she reported. They moved up the attack. 2 hours early. They hit us in 40 minutes. Reyes did not panic. Then we're ready 40 minutes early. Everyone to positions. The lights went dark across the base. Silence fell. 40 humans melted into the shadows, weapons ready, waiting. Tilly positioned herself near the communication center, her modified frame loaded with spare power cells for the defense systems. Her job was support. She would keep the humans fighting as long as possible. Volkov appeared beside her. He pressed something into her hand, a small shock device designed to be mounted on her frame. Just in case, he said. Point and press. Bad guys fall down. Thank you. Tilly whispered. He nodded and disappeared into the darkness. The minutes crawled by. Tilly's heart pounded in her chest. She had never been in combat before. She was not sure she would survive the night, but she was no longer afraid. The humans had shown her something. Strength was not about perfect bodies or powerful weapons. It was about choosing to stand when running was easier. It was about protecting others even when it cost everything. She finally understood why the galaxy feared humans and why the vulnerable loved them. A rumble shook the base. Draven ships entering atmosphere. Sergeant Reyes's voice came over the calm and steady. They're here. Remember what we're fighting for. Make them regret coming. The battle for Base Meridian had begun. The first Draven ship touched down on landing pad 3. It exploded before the ramp could open. Okonkwo's EMP mines did not just disable electronics. She had connected them to fuel line sensors. The moment the ships powered down, the fuel ignited. 3 ships became fireballs in the first 10 seconds of the invasion. Commander Vorith watched from his command vessel, still in orbit. His yellow eyes widened with shock. This was not possible. The humans were peacekeepers. Soft. Weak. They should have been running. Instead, they were fighting back. Land the troops manually, he ordered. Ground assault. Overwhelm them. 150 Draven soldiers dropped from transport pods, hitting the ground around the base perimeter. They moved in standard formation, expecting minimal resistance. They found none. The base was dark. Silent. Empty. A young Draven soldier named Keth stepped forward, scanning for targets. Where are they? Did they flee? His answer came as a rifle shot from the shadows. Keth dropped. The soldier beside him dropped. A third fell before anyone could react. Then the humans emerged from everywhere at once. They came from maintenance tunnels, from cargo containers, from beneath camouflage tarps. They fired with precision that seemed impossible in the darkness. Every shot found a target. The Draven formation shattered. In Corridor 7, Private Volkov held a choke point alone. 3 Draven soldiers charged him. He shot the first 2 and broke the third's neck with his bare hands. A fourth appeared behind him and slashed his arm with a blade. Volkov did not fall. He did not even flinch. He turned, grabbed the Draven by the throat, and threw him through a wall. Medic training, he said to no one in particular. You learn where everything breaks. More soldiers came. Volkov held the corridor for 7 minutes, taking wounds that would have killed a lesser species. When reinforcements finally arrived, he was still standing, surrounded by 11 fallen enemies. In the communication center, Okonkwo worked her magic. She had cracked more than just the Draven encryption. She had learned their command frequencies. All units, fall back to position 7. She broadcast in perfect Draven military code. Commander's orders. Position 7 was a dead-end storage room. 30 Draven soldiers walked directly into an ambush, following orders that never came from their commander. Sergeant Reyes led the main defense from the operations center. She coordinated her teams with calm precision, moving soldiers like chess pieces across the base. Tilly, she called over the comm, I need eyes on Sector 4. Their officers are hiding somewhere. Tilly guided her mobility frame through a maintenance corridor, using paths too small for Draven soldiers. She reached an observation point and scanned the battlefield below. There, 3 Draven with red bands on their arms, directing troops from behind cover. Found them, she reported. Sending coordinates now. 10 seconds later, human snipers eliminated all 3 officers. The Draven soldiers below them panicked, losing formation, becoming easy targets. Tilly had never felt powerful before. But watching the enemy fall because of her knowledge, her skills, her contribution. She understood something. She was not broken. She was different. And different could be deadly. Commander Vorith finally landed his ship outside the base perimeter, surrounded by his personal guard. He was furious. His invasion was failing. 40 humans were destroying his force of 200. Enough games, he snarled. I will take what I came for myself. He led 50 soldiers in a direct assault on the civilian shelter. Let the humans fight for their base. He would take hostages. He would take the crippled translator who had ruined his plans. He would make examples of them all. The shelter doors were reinforced, but Draven cutting tools opened them in minutes. Vorith stepped inside, expecting cowering Sarati. Expecting easy prey, that he found Tilly, alone, floating in her mobility frame between him and the civilians. Move aside, broken thing, he said, drawing his blade. Your protectors are busy dying. No one is coming to save you. Tilly did not move. You are wrong about many things, Commander. You were wrong about the humans. You were wrong about this base. And you are wrong about me. Vorith laughed. What will you do? Bleed on me? No, Tilly said, and smiled. I will delay you. Vorith's eyes narrowed. Delay me for what? Behind him, Sergeant Reyes and her squad emerged from hidden positions built into the shelter walls. They had been there the whole time, waiting for them, Tilly said. Vorith spun, blade raised, but he was surrounded. His guards were outnumbered. His escape was cut off. The humans had not been defending the base randomly. They had been hurting him, pushing his forces, creating openings, all to bring him here, to this moment, to this trap. Hello, Commander, Reyes said, her rifle aimed at his chest. Remember what you did to our translator? The one you called a broken thing. Vorith's yellow eyes darted around, looking for escape. Diplomatic immunity. You cannot touch me. Galactic law protects. Galactic law protects diplomats, Reyes interrupted. Not we're criminals, not slavers, and not cowards who assault disabled civilians. She stepped closer. You made a mistake, Commander. You hurt one of ours. And now you're going to regret it for the rest of your very short career. Vorith's hand tightened on his blade. But he was already beaten, and everyone in the room knew it. Commander Vorith was not a coward. He had conquered worlds. He had crushed rebellions. He had never surrendered to anyone. That he was not going to start with humans. His blade flashed toward Reyes. She fired, but he twisted sideways, the shot grazing his shoulder instead of hitting his chest. Before she could fire again, he grabbed Tilly's mobility frame and yanked her in front of him. Cold metal pressed against Tilly's throat. Drop your weapons, Vorith hissed, or I open this thing's neck. The humans froze. Their rifles stayed raised, but no one fired. You think I'm bluffing? Vorith pressed the blade harder. A thin line of blue blood appeared on Tilly's pale skin. This creature means nothing to me. Kill me, and I take it with me. Sergeant Reyes did not lower her weapon. Her eyes were locked on Vorith's, cold and calculating. You're right, she said calmly. She means nothing to you, but she means everything to us. Then she fired. The shot was impossible. It should have been impossible. Vorith was using Tilly as a shield. There was no angle, no clear target, but Reyes did not aim for Vorith. She aimed for his blade. The weapon shattered. Fragments of metal flew in all directions. Vorith screamed as pieces cut his hand. In that moment of distraction, Tilly remembered the gift Volkov had given her. She reached down, grabbed the shock device mounted on her frame, and pressed it directly against Vorith's chest. The commander convulsed. His muscles locked. He fell backward, twitching on the floor, his yellow eyes wide with disbelief. A disabled Sarati had brought him down. Secure him, Reyes ordered. .2 soldiers grabbed Vorith and bound his arms behind his back. His personal guards dropped their weapons without a fight. Their commander was defeated. Their invasion had failed. Fighting further was pointless. Outside, the remaining Draven forces were collapsing. Subcommander Kress, Vorith's second in command, had seen enough. He was a soldier, not a fanatic. The humans had killed or captured over 60% of the raiding force. Air support was destroyed. Their commander was prisonered. He contacted Reyes on an open channel. Sergeant, this is Subcommander Kress. I am assuming command of Draven forces. I request terms for surrender. Terms are simple, Reyes replied. Lay down weapons. Submit to detention until reinforcements arrive. Anyone who resists will be treated as an enemy combatant. Crest did not hesitate. Agreed. All Draven units, stand down. This operation is over. The shooting stopped. In the silence that followed, Tilly finally allowed herself to breathe. Medical teams spread across the base, treating the wounded. 8 humans had been injured, 2 of them critically, but none were dead. 40 humans had held against 200 and survived. The Draven casualties were heavier. 67 killed, 45 captured, including their commander. The rest had surrendered. Volkov was carried to medical despite his protests. The cuts on his arm and chest were deep, but he kept insisting he was fine. The medics ignored him and strapped him to a bed. Okonkwo sat against a wall, her tablet still clutched in her hands. She had not stopped working throughout the entire battle. Her fingers were shaking now that the adrenaline was fading. Sergeant Reyes found Tilly in the civilian shelter, surrounded by grateful Sarati. Grandmother Pell was holding her hand, crying quietly. "You saved us," Pell kept saying. "You and the humans. You saved all of us." Tilly did not know what to say. She had never been called a hero before. She had never done anything worth remembering. Until tonight. Reyes cleared her throat. "Tilly, I need you for something." The tribunal was held 3 days later, after human reinforcements finally arrived. Vorith stood in chains before a panel of judges representing 3 species. Human, Sarati, and even a Draven observer sent to ensure fairness. The charges were read. War crimes, attempted slavery, assault on a disabled civilian, violation of diplomatic immunity through hostile action. Vorith tried to claim he was still protected by diplomatic convention. The Draven observer shut him down. "You forfeited protection when you attacked the Sarati translator," the observer said coldly. "Under Galactic Compact law, assault on disabled civilians is classified as aggravated misconduct. You are no longer a diplomat. You are a criminal." Tilly was called to testify. She guided her mobility frame to the witness position and faced the commander who had kicked her to the floor, who had called her broken, who had promised to enslave her. That he looked smaller now, diminished. His scales had lost their shine. His eyes had lost their cruelty. He was just a bully who had finally met someone who hit back. "He assaulted me in the corridor," Tilly said clearly. "He kicked my mobility frame and knocked me to the floor. He called me a broken thing. He said I would learn my proper place as a slave." Vorith said nothing. He had no defense. The tribunal found him guilty on all charges. Life imprisonment. Stripped of rank. His own government disavowed him to avoid interstellar incident. AS guards led him away. Vorith passed Tilly's mobility frame. She met his eyes without flinching. "I told you that you were wrong," she said softly. "About many things, but especially about the humans. And especially about me." Vorith's only response was silence. The doors closed behind him. He was never seen in public again. 6 months passed. Base Meridian was rebuilt, stronger than before. Tilly stood at the observation window, watching a new transport ship approach the landing pads. Her mobility frame hummed softly beneath her, upgraded with the latest technology the humans could provide. She was no longer just a translator. The Sarati government had promoted her to senior diplomatic liaison, the youngest in their history. She had accepted on one condition. She would remain stationed with the humans. They had agreed without argument. Sergeant Reyes appeared beside her. The woman had turned down 3 promotions in the past 6 months. She said her place was with her squad, not behind a desk. "New arrivals?" Reyes asked. "Sarati families," Tilly confirmed. "Refugees from the border systems. The Draven Collective has been quiet since the invasion failed, but people are still afraid. They're coming here for protection." "Yes." The transport landed. The ramp lowered. Sarati civilians emerged slowly, blinking in the unfamiliar light of an alien moon. Among them, Tilly noticed a family standing apart from the others. 2 parents, holding the hands of a young girl. The child was perhaps 6 years old, with bright silver eyes and pale blue skin. She was missing her right arm. The parents looked terrified. Not of the base. Not of the humans. They were afraid of how their daughter would be treated. On most worlds, a disabled child was a burden. A shame. Something to hide. Tilly guided her frame forward. "Welcome to Meridian," she said warmly. "I am Tilly. I will help you settle in." The mother's eyes widened when she saw Tilly's mobility frame. She recognized another disabled Sarati. Her grip on her daughter's hand tightened. "Is it true?" the mother whispered. "What they say about this place? About the humans?" What do they say? Tilly asked. That they do not. That they do not see us as broken. That they protect everyone. Even people like. She could not finish the sentence. She glanced at her daughter with tears in her eyes. Tilly smiled gently. Come with me. There is someone I want you to meet. She led them across the landing pad to where Sergeant Reyes was waiting. The human woman had been watching the interaction, understanding more than words could convey. Tilly turned to the young girl. What is your name? Saya, the child said quietly. She was shy, hiding behind her mother's leg. Saya, this is Sergeant Diana Reyes. She is the commander of this base. She protects everyone who lives here. Reyes knelt down, so she was at the child's eye level. Her hard soldier's face softened into something gentle. Hello, Saya. Welcome to Meridian. Saya stared at the human with wide eyes. Are you really a soldier? I am. My papa says humans are dangerous. Reyes glanced at the father, who looked embarrassed. Then she looked back at Saya. We can be dangerous, she admitted, to people who hurt others, but to people who need help. She reached out and touched Saya's shoulder gently. We're protectors. That's what we do. Will you protect me? Saya asked. Yes, even though I'm different. The question hung in the air. Tilly saw the parents holding their breath. This was the moment they feared. The rejection, the disgust, the dismissal. Reyes smiled warmly. Saya, being different doesn't make you less. It makes you special. And on this base, everyone is family. You're safe here. I promise. Saya studied the human's face for a long moment. Then, slowly, she smiled back. Okay, she said simply. The mother burst into tears. Not from sadness. From relief. From joy. From the overwhelming realization that her daughter had found somewhere she belonged. The father bowed deeply to Reyes. Thank you, he said, his voice thick with emotion. Thank you. Tilly watched as human soldiers helped the families unload their belongings. She watched children who had been told they were worthless start to laugh and play. She watched parents who had lived in fear begin to hope. Volkov appeared beside her, carrying a box of supplies. His arm had healed, though the scars remained. He claimed they made him look distinguished. New families settling in, he asked. Yes. Good. He smiled at a group of Sarati children who were staring at him with awe. He waved, and they giggled. More people to cook for. Okonkwo joined them, her tablet as ever-present as her sharp eyes. Base capacity is going to be tested. We might need an expansion. Already requested, Tilly said. Approved this morning. The Sarati government is funding construction. They want Meridian to be a symbol. A symbol of what? Tilly looked at the humans and Sarati working together, laughing together, protecting each other. A symbol of what is possible, she said, when the strong choose to defend the vulnerable instead of exploit them. That night, Tilly returned to her quarters and found a message waiting. It was from the Galactic News Network, requesting an interview. They wanted to tell the story of Base Meridian. The story of how 40 humans stood against 200 invaders. The story of a disabled translator who helped bring down a war criminal. She accepted. The interview aired across 100 worlds. Billions watched. The galaxy learned what happened on Callista, 7. And they learned something else too. Humans did not become the most feared species by building the biggest weapons or conquering the most territory. They earned that reputation one act at a time, standing between the cruel and the vulnerable, making tyrants regret their choices, refusing to abandon anyone, because hurting the helpless did not prove strength, but protecting them. That was what made humans the deadliest species in the known universe. And somewhere, in detention on a prison moon, Commander Vorith finally understood his mistake. He had hurt a disabled alien, and the humans had made him regret it for the rest of his life.